Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm talking about another episode from Season 1, The Courtship, written by Jeb Rosebrook and directed by Harry Harris. In The Courtship, Olivia's uncle, Cody Nelson, comes to visit. He has been living in Cincinnati, although he was originally from Virginia. Now, it has been made note of that most of the time we talk about Walton relatives from John's side of the family, and I have been asked about relatives of Olivia's. We have come across a few now, and in this case, this is once again a relative of Olivia's. And the character of Cody is played by wonderful actor Edward Franz. It soon becomes evident that Uncle Cody is not very happy. He has been sort of temporarily laid off from his job at a bank in Cincinnati. He seems obsessed with catching the news every night to see if there's any change in the status of banks being closed during the Depression years. So he's a little bit lost. He comes back to Virginia. He's just not very happy, and so all of a sudden, plans are put into play to perhaps find him some company, something that might brighten him up. At one point, Zeb takes Cody fishing, and they have a wonderful time out fishing at the lake. This was our very own Druscilla's pond on the back lot of the studio. They have taken Reckless along, and Reckless keeps barking at things and looking off in different directions, which was clearly where his trainer was giving him commands. They are after this big fish that Grandpa talks about. At one point, they seem to have caught this big fish. And in trying to reel it in, they both end up soaking wet in the lake. This would have been a case of a scene, a take that had to be done in one. Because once they're all wet, you have to dry them all off and start over again. So these are the types of scenes that are rehearsed carefully. They make sure the camera focus is all happening, and then they do not move forward if they think there's a problem early in the take, and then we'll go back and reset, and then when they get it, they've got it. And I mean, of course, if they absolutely had to do it again, they could go and dry everybody off. Sometimes they will have more than one pair of whatever the costume is, but for the most part, we didn't have that very often. So chances are they would have to clean it up and, take the time to dry everybody off and do it again. So not something they wanted to do. John Boy gets the idea that the widow, Cordelia Honeycutt, might be a good partner for Uncle Cody. So John Boy matchmaking, interesting. Olivia and Grandma are not in favor of this because Cordelia has a past. She has been married 4 times. So they feel like Uncle Cody would be in way over his head with Cordelia. They do not consider her an appropriate match. But John Boy convinces Grandma and Olivia to go and have tea with Cordelia and to invite her for dinner to meet Uncle Cody. And they think they've gotten off, that she's not available, and then she says yes, so now they're stuck. It turns out we are also celebrating Cody's birthday, so I bring over a cake, and then he gets to blow out the candles. We never do get to eat the birthday cake, which I'm sure I was very disappointed about. I was all about those cakes. But Elizabeth says because Uncle Cody hasn't celebrated a birthday in a lot of years, that he has a lot of wishes. Cordelia says he should make many, many wishes. Cody and Cordelia do indeed start spending a lot of time together. They have a lot of outings, and she drives this fabulous car, which hopefully we can figure out the make and model of, because I know that's always of interest to you. At one point they get home and they are talking loudly outside in the car. John and Olivia are awake. Olivia thinks it's terrible and she doesn't approve at all, and John's like, oh, let it be, And then the 3 girls, 3 Walton girls, are up in the window also looking out and watching. I would pretty much guarantee that this shot was taken on the soundstage through the window on the soundstage. It would have been easier to control the light and to get the shot as opposed to having to get up on the first level of the roof of the house or work with a crane. They could have done it, I guess, a little easier with a crane shot as opposed to trying to get a camera safely up outside the window on the roof. That's why I'm guessing it was inside the soundstage. They go out dancing one night, and I thought it was fascinating that the instruments for this dance are a violin and a banjo. Probably very keeping of the era, but just an interesting musical combination. They also then, in terms of editing and transitions between scenes, you see some of the dancing, then we see the band, then we go up to this mirror ball, and then we come back down into lighting has gone dimmer. It is later in the evening, so this would have been sort of a way for them to edit and do a whole transition of time in a really smooth fashion. There must have been a day spent at Franklin Canyon, one of our local locations, to shoot some of these. I thought that it was a location opening the show when John Boy is waiting for the bus because he's leaning up against a fence where there's a horse in there. And I was like, not sure where that is. So I think that might have been Franklin Canyon, but could have been on the back lot. But definitely for these picnics, beautiful shot over the water from the reservoir out there and across to where they're having this beautiful picnic. Then in a sequence a little bit later, they are back there having another picnic. And this is when Cordelia confesses to having had 4 husbands. And it does shock Cody a bit. He is taken aback by that. There's an absolutely beautiful shot here of Dana Hansen, the actress playing Cordelia, when she is explaining about one of her husbands and just the lighting and the colors and the trees and everything. Just an absolutely stunning shot by our cinematographer, Academy Award winning cinematographer Russell Meddy. I love how we see all the kids out working in that garden. It's funny how you can end up as an actor. You think of it as not a particularly physical job in normal circumstances, but you get certain sorts of scenes that you're doing that can be very physical. And the thing is, you have to do them over and over and over again. I mean, we weren't doing heavy physical work here, a little hoeing, a little weeding, whatever, but it just reminded me that sometimes it can get sort of grueling and you need to do as many takes as necessary to get the scene. In this case, we're out doing this, and then Uncle Cody decides he's made a commitment. Even though he was taken aback by Cordelia's 4 husbands, he's in love, and he wants to go propose to her. John Boy hoops and hollers when he tells him this, and there's this great shot of all the kids at the garden kind of like, what do you think's going on there? And then I absolutely adore when it comes onto the porch, and you see Olivia and Grandma, and they share this little interchange, which I just think is so fun.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
I'm thinking exactly what you're thinking.
I thought Harry Harris created a lot of really very real things in this episode. It's a very simple episode and at times seems to move slowly. And it made me wonder whether in today's fast-paced television era, whether a show like this, if you try to do it, whether it would even get done, because it might be like, oh, it's too slow, it doesn't move, not enough happening. But I think it's a beautiful, slow-moving story with a fabulous, heartfelt message. But within Harry creating these moments of realism, there's a point where John Boy's driving the car, the daddy's truck, and Cody says he would like John Boy to be his best man. And John Boy is like distracted and he's like looking at Cody in the truck and like hits a bump in the road and then, swerves and has to get back on the road. I loved that because quite often when there are driving scenes in shows, it feels to me like people spend, especially the driver spends a lot of time looking at the person that they're talking to. And I keep thinking, watch the road, watch the road. So it seems to me like they know they're in a protected situation. They're either being towed by a camera truck or they are doing process shots. So they are stationary. So you lose that sense of realism that a driver who's actually having to stay on the road the attention they would have to give to the road. So in this case, I felt that that was very realistic, that that would happen if you really weren't paying attention. I love the way Harry Harris crafted sort of the wedding proposal, where he has a lot of distance between Cordelia and Cody throughout it. First, Cody's talking, you see Cordelia looking in the mirror because she felt like she was caught looking a little frumpy, and she's trying to, spruce herself up. And Cody's in the background. You see that through the mirror. Then they sort of switch positions, and then she moves, and there's still distance, and you feel her vulnerability, that she's not sure, she thinks he's going to leave her, that he's calling off this, that it was too much for him to hear that she was married 4 times and actually divorced twice, 2 of those 4 times. Pretty shocking in those days. So when he finally says that he loves her and he wants to marry her, I just feel like there's this absolutely beautiful moment of her reaction, but we don't quite know what she's going to say. But there's so much truth and honesty in this moment. And we as an audience, I felt myself going, well, is she going to say yes? And I was like, I'm pretty sure she actually said yes, but I was very caught up in the moment. And then we get into the wedding sequence. The Baldwin sisters, who Cordelia mentions are good friends of hers, are bridesmaids. Elizabeth is the flower girl, and Grandma plays the piano. I loved how Ellen did play piano, but in this case, it was almost like she chose to not play really well. I don't remember how well she played, but it was like there was intentional mistakes. Another thing that felt like it was real, because she wasn't a professional piano player. Who knows how well Grandma was supposed to play? So it just seemed real, and she had this fabulous reaction at the end when she's kind of finished, and, well, you take a look.
Please be seated.
It's sort of capped off as Miss Mamie, Miss Emily, they arranged to take a picture of all the family in the wedding party. And then there's this lovely frozen frame moment of seeing the wedding party. That's what I have for you for this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons about the episode, The Courtship. If you are enjoying these, please do share them with friends, hit like, subscribe, leave comments if you have questions for an Ask Judy segment. I'll be back with more Behind the Scenes of the Waltons and more Ask Judy. Thanks for watching.